The Salmon Run is an annual event, a spectacular event, when the salmon travels thousands of kilometers back from the ocean to their birthplace in the freshwater creeks and river streams to lay eggs. The reason being the eggs cannot survive in the salty waters of the ocean. There is a folklore that salmon lays eggs at the same place, same creeks, on the same riverbeds where it was hatched itself. And when it was tracked, that myth was found almost to be true. It achieves that by the sense of smell and by the sense of Earth's magnetic fields, which helps it navigate through the ocean to that particular river basin and then follows that water streams hundreds of kilometers into the land. Mother Nature has programmed this little fish in such a way that not only it keeps its own species going, salmon is a keystone species in the region and is a lifeline for so many others who just rely on it for food and ultimately survival. This journey of salmon is very unique, very tough, and extremely hazardous. Approximately only 4 out of 1,000 fish make it back to their original birthplace to lay eggs, and roughly 10% of these eggs actually survive and hatch. Nature has given this fish a purpose so unique that it has to beat all the odds of nature itself by swimming against the water streams, jumping over the waterfalls, and crawling through shallow waters. And most of the time, it is stuck in the landlocked ponds waiting for the rain to come, so the water rises again and it can continue its journey against the fast and turbulent waters flooding through these river streams. In addition to that, there are predators like sharks, otters, sea lions, bears, bald eagles, and so many more, whose only source of food is salmon. It is a beautiful example of nature playing against itself. A fish born miles away from the ocean has to go there for their own food, but has to come back to reproduce and die at the same place. With its life cycle, it serves its purpose of existing on this beautiful planet by providing life to so many organisms, contributing to the ecosystems of their birthplace with the nutrients of its decomposing body. And above all, the only purpose each and every organism is programmed for: to pass on the baton of life to their next generation. Nature is never interested in an individual. Nature is always interested in a species as a whole. And it has programmed every organism in such a way that collectively, as a species, that organism can exist. The program is at play in every species, including us humans. We are social animals who used to exist in groups or tribes that changed to communities and societies, and today, we, the Homo sapiens, are individualistic. We are concerned about our own existence only, and this is the only reason for the friction between humans and nature, as we are working against the original programming. Our Earth is changing, and there is no doubt about it. The economies and the political systems, the climate and the ecosystems, the relationships between countries, races, families, and individuals, everything around us is getting filled with so much negative energy that any one of these can create a chaos at any point in the near future. We can keep arguing about how it happened, why it happened, how to stop it, and all the jargon around these geological, political, or personal issues that we are encountering these days. But the reality is that we have deviated so far from our course as a species that it is almost impossible to get rid of this dark energy we humans have accumulated during our journey from the caves to the castles. There is nothing impactful happening at the moment that can change the course of this decline to a positive side, or at least slow it down. So we have to accept the reality as it is, that we have made mistakes, that there are some issues that need attention before we can plan something to do about it. We need to take a pause and observe the challenges we are leaving for our next generation, our own kids, and what tools we are getting them equipped with. The uncertainty we see today about anything in the future was not as dreadful when we were that age. Future used to be a direct outcome of the efforts made. Picking a career was not this crazy ever. It was quite easy to look into the future and be someone that you want to be. But today, no one knows what is going to be relevant in the next 10 to 15 years, when our school-going kids will be looking for a career. No one can predict what tomorrow holds in terms of politics, economies, health, and everything that affects us on a personal level, being a human and being a part of the societies we live in. Who can predict where the technology is headed? With the AI in the picture now, even the individuals who created it cannot predict the path it's going to take. We are being warned over and over about this autonomous coding that has a potential of going haywire on its own, or after going into the wrong hands, most likely. And it is happening already. We haven't seen the impact of it yet, as it is in very beginning of it. We have given away too much power and too much of our personal information to these technologies prevalent today. We have no clue who knows how much about our likes and dislikes, our relationships, our vulnerabilities, our sexual, political, or any other orientations, and every piece of information we consider personal. Just imagine all that going into some wrong and manipulative hands, and how it can be used to alter our thoughts, our behavior, and ultimately it can alter our course of life. The personalized ads on the social media that sometimes make us wonder that how do they know what am I thinking? Those are just very basic algorithms created with help of these AI bots in order to plant the seed of thought in our brains. And when there are dedicated systems in place to spread any kind of false information or any kind of propaganda, we cannot even imagine the consequences at this point. And do we think our kids are ready for this? And not just that. Our next generation is so distant from nature that they have no ability to survive without the artificial environments we are raising them in. The energy sources for these environments like electricity, fossil fuels, and the communication networks are getting in control of just a handful of corporations. We have outsourced our basic necessities of life like food, water, and shelter. Our next generation has no clue on how to survive without any one of these systems that we are taking for granted, like uninterrupted supply of electricity or water or food. We are living in an age where a network outage for a day is considered a national emergency. And we definitely do not know what can happen or what can be done to common people if all of these services are monopolized. Most of our kids do not even know where the food comes from, let alone the survival in the wild. The wild, We think we left far behind, but it is right outside the four walls of our houses if any of the services or utilities are compromised. Just imagine how dependent we have become on technologies and services provided by just a handful of corporations. All these issues are very easy to ignore, but the consequences will be very hard too. So much power lies with just a few individuals, and the structures we believe in today can come crumbling down so fast that our kids will not even be able to understand what happened. The political, financial, judicial, and social systems exist and function normally only under favorable conditions, and these always collapse during emergencies. And any of the issues we are facing today can become an emergency at any point of time and get out of control very fast. Any lunatic can hack and crash the networks on which our world operates, or start a war, or the environment goes rogue, and there could be a scarcity of food and resources. These are not mere predictions or just movie fiction. All this is quite possible, and very much possible in the near future. Let's see, at what point do we intervene? We are definitely leaving our kids so vulnerable that they will find it very hard to survive without the assistance of the New World Order. The New World Order consists of the financial institutions, bureaucrats, the lawmakers, and the corporations providing everything from basic necessities like food, shelter, water, and clothing to transportation, energy, fuel, telecommunications, and so on. The kids are so alienated from nature that they will find survival very hard without any of these services. What kid wants to live a day without electricity and internet these days, let alone the question for food and shelter? We never gave it a thought that why is so much power getting accumulated with a few individuals? Monopoly on any product or service is always bad for the consumers. A few days back, I came across a video that was about Nostradamus' predictions that in the 21st century, the weathers are going to be all mixed up. There will be a strange weather all over the world and so on. And they were emphasizing on the fact that it has already started. Well, these kinds of predictions are so vague that they can be linked to any event or any time, and there is no scientific basis for these anyways. But we cannot ignore the facts that the climate is changing. We have seen it change in front of our eyes during our lifetime. Let's ignore all the conspiracy theories for some time, which say that there is no such thing as climate change and it's a hoax. Well, there are scientists screaming their lungs out with proof and with data to back up the facts that it is changing. The weathers are getting mixed up, rain and snow patterns are gone haywire, and devastating storms are a norm now. We have felt the impact of wildfires in Canada all the way to the New York City, and these events are becoming a regular thing. We were breathing in all that smoke and those gases, God knows which ones, for days. And those are poisonous and will cause damage eventually. Is that what we are leaving our kids with? Just to breathe and get sick? How much evidence do we need to believe that we humans have messed up big time? And the earth is not the same as it was a century ago. And at the rate of speed it is changing, it is going to be worse by the end of this century. We as a species are headed for an extinction, one or the other way. And this is a sure one, as it is going to give rise to chaos. We have seen the change happening in the last few decades and how this change got on the steroids in the 21st century. The generational gap is at its highest as the new generation has nothing in common with their parents, let alone the grandparents who have seen the golden ages of 60s and 70s. It is very hard to relate to your own kids, but this was not the case with us. With our generation who saw the development of internet and computers happening. There are efforts being made to make everyone aware of the reality behind this split of the thought that most of us overlook, saying that this does not affect me. We don't see anything happening in reality that can have any positive impact on our future. But it is for sure that we are exposing our kids to this new earth, to the new world, to the new environment, and they don't know what they're going into, without any expertise, without any knowledge, and without any guidance. If we want to survive as a species, and if we are worried about our next generation, we have to be honest, we have to be sincere with our efforts, and we have to serve the nature's purpose. When the salmon jumps out of the water to jump over the waterfall to reach the higher grounds, it has no idea if it will make it or it will end up in the mouth of a hungry bear. But it makes that leap by putting its trust in nature itself. That is when the purpose of its life is fulfilled, when it takes that leap against all the odds, against all the obstacles, and against all the possibilities. With the success rate of 0.4% making it back to their birthplace to give birth to their offsprings, and only 10% of those offsprings making it back to the ocean for the next salmon run, are the numbers Mother Nature is playing with. And even if we don't consider life expectancy or the challenges on the way to the parenthood of these organisms, with an infant mortality rate of 5.4 deaths per thousand in us humans in the Western countries, we are still headed for an extinction. And with all the information and with all the knowledge available to us, we just sit on our couch, sipping on the wine, watching primetime news, say that nothing can be done about this mess called humans. If a tiny fish can make that leap of faith without knowing if it will make it back in water or not, then what is stopping us? All of us have calculated our odds, and we know that our numbers are way better than 0.4%. And we are still hesitating to make those efforts and take those decisions that will secure our next generation's future. We are still ignoring the questions and concerns we should raise against the issues we know are for real. And let's not forget, we exist as a species, not as individuals. Mother Nature has no such system to protect every individual organism. For that purpose, we were given the gift of consciousness to think rationally of ourselves and everyone around us. All the calculations, the measurements, science, technology, communications, economics, politics, and everything we consider important makes sense only if humans are around. Explaining the numbers to the salmon that it is not worth the trip they are making will not deter them from serving their purpose. They're making the best use of their existence. And we, the wise and the conscious ones, keep wasting our one chance.